Let's do this right now. Okay, here we go. We talk about failure to communicate. One has to deal with one of those residents of Nassau County. Been caught between a rock and a hard place over the past 12 years. A number of residents have been to the Nassau County legislative meetings, appalled by what they see. You know, they can't get together. You know, both sides. I mean, like I said in that old movie, there's a failure to communicate. The environment is almost like, you know, it's like the House of Representatives in Congress. As a new county executive, Mr. Haber, what would you do to straighten this out?
Well, I find that the best way to get behind a community and have a community get behind you is to be humble, is to give other people credit. Right now, when a Democrat suggests something, the Republicans hate it. The Republicans suggest something, Democrats hate it. It's been that way since I've been here. It's like the Titanic is sinking, and you can put your hand on a life raft to save yourself, but both sides are trying to dunk each other. So, you know, I have a long track record in business, and how do you get successful when you don't grow up with a silver spoon in your mouth and you don't have somebody leading the way for you? You basically give other people credit, all right? You first of all, you go for the low-hanging fruit, and you say it's not about me, it's about the community. All right. When you go into the legislature, there are so many small things we can do that will make people look good. First thing, you know, energy performance contracts. A building like this, you could pay for the upgrades and the lighting, and it wouldn't cost any money because you'd save so much money from the electricity being saved. It pays for itself. You could have every county building redone. You put the Democrats and the Republicans in front of you. You give them full credit. It's not about me. We all got together and we did this. And you win people over step by step. I got on the school board, which it was almost like a free-for-all, like a rumble. The half the school board, like let's call them the Democrats, hated half the school board, let's call them Republicans. They all hated the superintendent, and the superintendent hated all of them. And I got in there, and I quietly suggested some very basic things. I didn't take sides, and over time, over 5 years, I helped generate or save money, about $10 million. And that's very meaningful money in the school district. So doing that, winning people over, now we have a very harmonious district. We're a model for all of Long Island, and our home values are up, and people want to come there because we're running very well. So the answer to your question very shortly is, you win them by letting them take the lead. You have humility, not arrogance, and you make sure that you give people credit.
All right.
Thank you. You're going to hear a lot tonight about I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that from both of us, but I did these things. Remember, I was in office for 8 years. Who remembers Peter Schmidt, who recently passed away, was the minority leader of the Nassau County Legislature? You raise your hand if you remember Peter Schmidt, okay? Peter Schmidt did not like Tom Suozzi. He was an angry Republican who was totally 100% against me, wanted to defeat me any chance he could, worked for 8 years to try and defeat me. So when I had to get 13 votes for bonding or for the capital plan or anything else that required 13 votes, I got the votes from the Republicans. That's why Newsday endorsed me in this race, because they said I know how to manage a large, complex organization like Nassau County. That's a $2.8 billion enterprise. That would be the 11th largest state in the United States of America. I've proven that I can do these type of things, that I can work with other people to get things done. And, quite frankly, I've learned quite a bit from being out of office. And one thing I didn't focus on enough and that I want to focus on a lot more is building relationships with other elected officials and community leaders, to bring them into the process, to share credit, to share ideas, to do things together, to try and get things done. You have to work with the mayors of the villages. You have to work with the town supervisors. You have to work with the state assembly and state senate. You have to work with your congresspeople and senators. And I have a lot of those relationships, and I've cultivated those relationships, but I spent much too much time at my desk eating lunch, working every day to manage the county. I've got to spend a lot more time out and about with other elected officials, with other community leaders, in the community, building coalitions of people to try and move things forward. Because one of the most important things we need to do for the long-term sustainable future of Nassau County is to grow. We've stopped growing. We've stopped growing since 1990. We became suburban sprawled in 1990. There were no more potato fields left. There were no big open fields left. We don't want to use up any more open space. In fact, I worked during my administration to preserve hundreds of acres of open space and to bring back farmland and fix up parks. Is that my 2 minutes, Rudy? Yes. I'll get back to that later. Thank you very much.
Do I get a rebuttal on that? Or? How long do I get?
You give 2 minutes? 2 minutes.
All right, so I had a teacher in fourth grade, Mrs. Koch. Mrs. Koch said there's perception and there's reality. And bond upgrades all sound great and everything's great and the county's running well, but keep in mind a couple things there versus perception and reality. All right? When we had these bond upgrades, anybody here feel there were more job opportunities, especially in the corridor? No. We didn't get quality. We lost construction jobs, manufacturing jobs. We lost high-paying jobs, good middle-class jobs, and now the middle class is getting squeezed. So I know you gave a good shot in the first term, and the second term you wanted to run for governor. You weren't at your desk. I respectfully disagree. You spent over 200 days outside of our community running for governor. And that's why you didn't get reelected in 2009. It wasn't the Tea Party, it was because you didn't work hard enough. And you know, I have a work ethic, I call it, I work half days. I work half days, 7 days a week. You just pick the 12 hours that I work, and those are the half days. And then that's what I've been doing. I've been working a little bit more than half days in this campaign because, you know, I'm not a politician. I made I had my success in the business world first, and then I started small with the school board, even though it's a $100 million budget, 600 employees, the size of the town of North Hempstead. Helped turn that around. And now I'm going to run a $2.8 billion, 7,000 employee organization. All right, I've managed hundreds of millions of dollars. I've created hundreds of jobs throughout my career. I know what it's like to manage.
You got 30 seconds.
Tom managed a large organization, never managed a lemonade stand, and then went into the real world, and all the jobs that he got were from his connections. So, we're both Democrats, and we agree that we have to get rid of Ed Mangano, and make no mistake about it, I am a Democrat. But I think the paths to our future are different. I think we've tried Tom, he had 8 years. I think it's time to go in a different direction.
A tough financial time in Nassau County since 1990. It's true. We have lost jobs. We have lost growth. There's no question. So is Suffolk County. So is a lot of New York State. We're facing a systemic problem that exists in this area. We've lost 30% of our population of 24-year-olds to 34-year-olds since 1990. The world has changed dramatically, and we need to recognize that. For us to be sustainable for the long term, we have to change the way that we look at things. 95% of the county should stay exactly the way it is now. 95% of the county, we've got to try and keep our precious North Shore waterfronts and South Shore ocean beaches and fix up our parks and try and get more open spaces and fix up the good things that we love about this county. But we have to also address 5% of our county's landmass and figure out how to grow, how to have construction, how to build new apartments for young people and for senior citizens, how to build high-skilled, high-tech businesses, how to put restaurants and shops on the first floor, and do it around train stations in our downtown areas. Now, I've been working on this for 10 years. They're starting to do it in different places in the county. They're doing it in Suffolk County, in Wyandanch. They're doing it in Riverhead, transit-oriented development. Talk to the county executive of Suffolk County, and they'll give me credit for starting this conversation on Long Island. That we have to move away from just doing our single-story strip malls and just our single-family homes. We got to keep our existing single-family homes, but in our downtown, we need to encourage growth. To do that requires zoning changes. The county doesn't control the zoning changes. We need the towns and the villages to make those zoning changes to try and build these cool downtowns where young people want to live. That's why building relationships and understanding the process and understanding how elected officials think and community people think, working together to make these changes. Because after years of everybody saying, no, not in my backyard, stop the urbanization of Nassau County, stop Nassau County from becoming the 6th borough. We have to preserve our suburban quality of life, but build up our cool downtowns to attract young people, to expand the tax base, and to bring in new sales tax revenues, and to create jobs for the future. Thank you very much.
I'll just read it off. It says here, Nassau County Corridor, Hempstead, Uniondale, Roosevelt, Freeport, and on, are communities that face unique challenges. The corridor faces the highest foreclosure rate in the country, and also in the idea, since you're talking about foreclosure and you're talking about housing, question came up in concerning of trying to create more affordable housing in these communities. What plan do you have?
Well, when I was in office, we either built or rehabilitated 2,000 units of affordable housing. And it's very hard to do because there's very little new housing of any type being built anywhere on Long Island. There's no more potato fields. There's no more places to build a whole bunch of new single-family houses. You have to figure out how to fit it into existing places. That's why building up cool downtowns is so important, where you can build housing in the downtown as well as offices in the downtown. And there are state and federal programs that are called 80-20s, where you can keep 80% of the housing as market rate housing and 20% of the housing can be affordable housing. So you're not going to have new construction of affordable housing unless you have some construction. And we haven't had any construction on Long Island, or very little construction, since the 1990s. To change that requires the towns and villages to change their zoning to try and help us to make it happen. Foreclosure is a very serious problem that exists. There's a whole bunch of foreclosures that are locked up with the trustees. This is kind of a complex thing. When everybody made those bad loans, and they put the bad loans together with the good loans, and they tied them together into different securities and traded them on Wall Street. When they went bust, those loans couldn't be renegotiated with the people that live in the houses. A lot of people's houses are underwater, which means that the mortgage is higher than the value of the person's home. And whereas that would happen in the private sector with a commercial bank, and they come and say, let's renegotiate that loan, those mortgages are in a lockbox, in effect, and they can't be renegotiated. So I'm exploring something right now, I'm not committing to it yet, but I'm exploring something right now about actually going after those mortgages and taking them away from that lockbox, from the trustee, and forcing them to be renegotiated. And there may be government power to do that. So you'll be hearing more about that as time goes on. But it's a very serious problem, and it's an opportunity for us to inject a whole bunch of capital into our marketplace, to free up a lot of housing that's now frozen, and to try and provide for affordable housing at the same time. Thank you very much. No clap.
So I think the theme of tonight should be perception versus reality. The perception, 2,000 homes of affordable housing were built during Tom's administration. Let's break that down over 8 years. I'm a math guy, so let's call it about 250 a year. That's 250 a year. That's in the 11th large, we build bigger than 11 states. We've only built 250 homes per year of affordable housing. That's 2 floors in an apartment building in New York City. All right, now, we have problems, and taxes are very high. Taxes are high in New York City, but somehow it's thriving there. And I think the answer to our problems is just like New York City. You go into an area where the zoning is where it should be, and you create a process where all the villages and towns can get on board and develop property with the same process, so builders can deploy capital quickly. Because Nassau County's got 19% rental homes. So after Hurricane Sandy, all those were taken up. Every other county, and we're different than Suffolk and Westchester and Putnam and even the counties in Jersey, they have 35% rental housing. So it comes back to the same issue, that there's no place for recent high school graduates or college graduates or people who are starting their first jobs to start off with a studio and then go to a 1-bedroom, then maybe buy a starter home. It's like you live in your parents' basement. I love my kids, but I don't see that as their future. Or you move somewhere else. And if you look at what happened in Williamsburg, what happened in Hoboken, or Jersey City, these places were places you'd never live. Harlem used to be a place that no one wanted to go. Now everybody's dying to go to Harlem. I see that as Hempstead's future. All right? Hempstead has good transportation. Hempstead has plenty of areas that can be regentrified. It just takes somebody who's actually been in the construction business. I actually represented a company from Oregon in New York for 5 years in commercial and residential real estate. I was the managing director. I've actually used my own capital and invested in similar projects all over the country, but somehow it doesn't happen here. So the perception of 2,000 homes versus the reality of how much more and how much better we can do, it's sky's the limit.
Thank you.